Sedaj pa sledijo izjemna predavanja domačih in tujih strokovnjakov, ki bodo govorili o vzdrževanju in obnavljanju cest, avtocestni infrastrukturi in viziji asfaltiranja cest do leta 2030. Moderator predavanj bo dr. Brejšo Gome iz Evropskega asfalterskega združenja. In predajam vam besedo. So, Mr. Brejšo Gome, now the stage is yours, please.
Okay, so all sorted. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Slovenko and the organizing team for bringing me the opportunity of being here in this Congress by the first time, this symposium. I have to say that I'm amazed. It's the first time, but it's an honor for me moderating this session, but also addressing such a great audience. It's very impressive, but I have no doubts about that, about this success, because I have to say that SAS as association is one of our most active members, always pushing for the best, for to bring all the innovations to Slovenia, to be in all the committees, digitalization, all these kind of things you can imagine. So I had absolutely no doubt that this, being organized by them, will be a success. So about this session, I would like to say that if you have seen the program, there is no title, there is no common topic for it. But if you allow me, I would say that the common topic here is the exceptional level and the top level of the 4 speakers we have to. Promise I didn't do anything. Okay. And something that I would like to highlight about this session is that the speakers are very different, but it's actually very interesting that we have a representation of 3 stakeholders that are fundamental and necessary for road projects. On the one hand, we have, let's say, the industry, the people selling asphalt, nothing less than the former president of the European Asphalt Pavement Association, Dr. Juan Potti, and the Secretary General of EAPA, Dr. Carsten Karcher. Then we have also a representation of the client, of people paying for the asphalt. We have from DARS, and I hope I pronounced correctly your name, Dr. Lidija Kegljevič, Zagorc. Is that correct? Is that close enough? Okay. Zagorc. Okay. Sorry. Okay. And then because, again, for projects, we have people selling asphalt, people buying asphalt, but companies and the system itself cannot work if we don't have a financial system behind. So we have also a tremendous expert that which Mr. Piero Munari, who will talk about very interesting things from this side. And yes, we will talk about taxonomy, the favorite word of the minute. I think most of you have heard this word, but like me, probably still don't understand very well what this is. So I'm sure that we will learn a lot of things today. I had a chance to have a look at the presentations, and I think we will learn a lot about maintenance. I think maintenance, we will talk a lot about that. So we will see how maintenance can help, for example, to decarbonize the transport sector, one of the most polluting sectors nowadays. So actually road maintenance can help to that. I think Juan Jose will talk about that. We will see even how digital technologies can help to do it better. We will see how road maintenance should be done to be sustainable, again, maybe related to taxonomy, things like that. So I think it's a very interesting session, because altogether I think we will try to foresee, seeing the history of our sector, seeing with all these changes that are happening nowadays, maybe we can all together try to foresee what we have ahead for the next years in the sector. So with this, I will present the first speaker. So Lidija. Lidija obtained her doctorate with a dissertation on sustainable development as a starting point for creating decision-making model for spatial investment in Slovenia. She obtained her master's degree in the field of economics and business science, and her title of civil engineer at the Faculty of Architecture, Civil Engineering and Geodesy in Ljubljana. From January 1st, 2023, she's a member of the board of DARS, responsible primarily for the field of organization of construction and renovations. Before that, she was employed by DRI Investment Management as project manager of the third development axis. During her career, she managed several construction investments, both private and public, participated in the management of the preparation of national spatial plans, environmental and investment documentation, and was the director of a small design company. As an expert with many years of experience in the field of construction investments, she is a lecturer in the course Management of Infrastructure Projects at the Faculty of European Law, a member of the Program Council of Academy of Construction Investments, organized within the framework of the Chamber of Commerce of Slovenia, where she lectures in the field of building construction. Since 2022, she has been a member of the ISETS Assembly and participates in several working bodies. On August 24 this year, the government of the Republic of Slovenia appointed her as a member of the newly established 14-member Reconstruction Council after the floods in August. So, Lidija, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Lep pozdrav še z moje strani in najlepše hvala tudi za povabilo. Zdaj, seveda bom rekla tako, v imenu vseh sodelavcev, ki delajo na področju vzdrževanja, obnavljanja na Darsu in tudi z vsemi povezanimi, se pravi drugimi področji in sektori, ki se nekako vključujejo v to področje, bom poskušala po najboljših močeh predstaviti nekoliko širše področje upravljanja in vzdrževanja, se pravi avtocestnega omrežja, ki je v upravljanju družbe Dars. Namreč, mislim, da smo do pred kratkim nekako govorili, da imamo razmeroma mlado avtocestno omrežje, se skratka mlad avtocestni križ, ampak moram reči, da danes nekako ni več tako. Omrežje se stara, kar pomeni, da na eni strani zahteva vzdrževanje, obnavljanje. To je seveda povezano tudi z zaporami, zastoji, in tudi za slabo voljo, veliko slabe volje. Na drugi strani pa seveda imamo naraščajoč promet, zmeraj večje zahteve po prometni varnosti in tudi zmeraj večje zahteve uporabnikov po pretočnosti. Skratka, gre za dve situacije, ki sta med sabo pravzaprav v nekem konfliktu in v tem času je seveda vzdrževanje in obnavljanje avtocestnega omrežja bistveno težje, kot je bilo to pred parimi, rečemo, 10 leti. Tako da, da vidim, se pravi, v upravljanju Darsa je približno 625 km avtocest in hitrih cest, približno 98 ali 93% cest poteka po objektih, 42 v predorih, priključki zavzamejo 143 km, razcepi 22 km in servisne ceste dodatno so še 40 km. Seveda, kot veste, teče projekt tretje razvojne osi, kar pomeni, da seveda karavanke, tudi na Primorskem, se bo dograjevalo omrežje, kar pomeni, da bomo s temi številkami v naslednjih 10 letih zrasli še za več kot 100 km. Tako kot sem rekla, starost avtocestnega omrežja je po določenih odsekih zelo različna. Vemo, da se je avtocestno omrežje gradilo tudi v določenih obdobjih. Najstarejše avtocestno omrežje letos je imelo 50 let. Vidimo pa tukaj, da imamo kar 53, več kot polovica avtocestnega omrežja. Ko rečem avtocestno omrežje, so seveda tukaj noter avtoceste in hitre ceste, starejšega od 20 let. Med 10 in 20 let še nadaljnih približno 45% in manj kot, in se pravi tista dobra 2,5% mlajšega omrežja od 10 let. Zdaj, če pogledamo tole omrežje glede na starost, vidimo seveda, da je proti Primorski, to je najstarejši avtocestni odsek, okrog Ljubljane proti Gorenjski in Štajerski, so tisti deli najstarejšega omrežja, nekoliko mlajše proti Dolenjski in Prekmurje. In kasneje, ko bomo videli, kakšno je stanje na tem avtocestnem omrežju, se prosim spomnite te karte, pa boste videli, da pravzaprav nekako stanje vozišč sovpada tudi s starostjo avtocestnega omrežja. Seveda za planiranje vlaganja v avtocestno omrežje zdaj ni pomembna samo starost avtocestnega omrežja, zelo pomembne so tudi prometne obremenitve, to, kar smo danes že velikokrat slišali. In te prometne obremenitve rastejo. Rastejo tako prometne obremenitve osebnih vozil, kot prometne obremenitve tovornih vozil. Z letošnjim vstopom, se pravi Hrvaška v Schengen, pa poleg naraščajočega prometa, ugotavljamo še nekoliko prerasporeditev tega prometa in dodatno obremenitev nekaterih odsekov avtocest, ki prej, rečemo, niso bile izpostavljeni takim količini prometa. Zdaj, če govorimo o prometu osebnih vozil, vidimo, da je tam med 3 in 4% je pretežno na Štajerskem, Primorskem, Gorenjskem kraku, prekmurski krak samo 1,3%, Dolenjski krak pa kar 8% rast. Tovorni promet je na nekaterih odsekih padel, vendar, če pogledamo pa odsek Dolenjske, pa kar 11,5% rast tovornega prometa. To je seveda do septembra letošnjega leta so te podatki. Zelo velik problem za utrujanje, se pravi materialov, za poškodbe na avtocestnem omrežju predstavljajo tovorna preobremenjena, se pravi preobremenjena tovorna vozila. Če je bil tam nekje povprečni delež teh vozil 12 ali pa 13%, vidimo, da se je letos dvignil na 18%. Zdaj nekateri to povezujejo tudi z ukinitvijo avtocestne policije, z manjšim nadzorom, vendar dejstvo je, da je z tem tranzitom, s povečanim tranzitom, seveda ta problem tudi večji in vsekakor je tudi cilj Darsa, da zavzame ali pa uvede nekatere ukrepe, s katerimi bi tudi ta delež tovornih vozil v bodoče zmanjšali. Ali so to lastne, se pravi tehnice, možnost sankcioniranja kršiteljev in tako naprej. Zdaj, tako kot je že Mitja prej predstavil, tudi Dars spremlja stanje vozišč z metodologijo Payment Management System, ki vrednoti po različnih indeksih. To je metodologija, ki je nekako sestavljena iz meritev vizualnih ocen in na ta način se potem meri skupni indeks stanja. Zdaj, ta skupni indeks stanja je seveda podlaga za to, da se potem na inženirski ravni načrtujejo potem tudi ukrepi na tem avtocestnem omrežju in potem tudi operativni plan družbe Dars, kar se tiče vlaganj v avtocestno omrežje. Zdaj, stanje vozišč v letu 2023 je približno tako, da imamo okrog, se pravi 40% vozišč, ki so v zelo dobrem ali dobrem stanju, pa potem 55 rečemo, ali 45% vozišč, ki so v mejnem ali slabem stanju in 12% vozišč, ki so v slabem stanju. Zdaj, to stanje ocenjujemo razmeroma kot še obvladljivo stanje in ga tudi želimo v bodoče v kratkoročnem obdobju vsaj ohraniti, v dolgoročnem obdobju pa izboljšati. Tole je nekako ta karta tega stanja. Vozišč, se pravi, vidimo, da okrog Ljubljane, tam, kjer so v bistvu prometne obremenitve največje in tam, kjer je starost vozišča nad 20 let, vidimo, da je pravzaprav stanje vozišč najslabše. Druge pa se seveda, ali smo že vlagali, je že izboljšano, ali pa se pravi, bo potrebno še izvesti nekatere vlaganja. Zdaj, ta vlaganja so tudi zelo različna. Preplastitev je ena taka, bom rekla, za investitorja najbolj ekonomično vlaganje, projektira se za obdobje ali pa izvaja se za plansko obdobje 10 let. Vrednost tega ukrepa je med 0,4 in 0,7 milijonov evrov na smerno vozišče na kilometr. Nekoliko dražje je seveda obnova konstrukcij, ki se že projektira za obnovo za plansko dobo 20 let. Vrednost je tukaj do 1 milijona evrov po kilometru na smerno vozišče in seveda najdražji ukrep rekonstrukcija za plansko dobo ravno tako 20 let vrednost do 2 milijona kilometrov na smerno vozišče. To je zasledovano stanje vozišč, skratka, da mi do leta 2028 ne izboljšamo, predvsem se pravi tiste rdeče odseke, in da imamo procent dobrih in zelo dobrih vozišč pod 40, nad 40%, tako do leta 2038 pa zmanjšamo, pa povečamo ta procent še za 20%. Zdaj, da lahko dosegamo vse te strateške cilje, pravzaprav tako, na podlagi te karte je v družbi DARS oblikovan strateški cilj, in sicer, da se letno obnovi vsaj 55 km smernih vozišč v smislu zasledovanja tega cilja do leta 2028, kar pomeni od 80 do 100 milijonov evrov vlaganja v obnove avtocestnega omrežja. Tole je nekako prikazano, se pravi, graf obnavljanja in vlaganja v avtocestno infrastrukturo. Vidimo, da v povprečju dosegamo teh 55 km obnov na leto. Letos je cilj 66,2 km, lani pa vidimo, da je bil ta cilj nekoliko manjši. Vendar, kar se pa vrednostno tiče, pa vlaganje v obnove narašča. Zdaj, sama obnova seveda je potrebno gledati nekoliko širše, predvsem v smislu tudi te percepcije, povezane z časom obnavljanja, zaporami, zastoje in tako naprej. Zato je zelo velik poudarek že na pripravi dokumentacije, opredelitvi tehnologije gradnje, optimizacije faznosti, proučevanja prometa v času zapor in se pravi v času izvajanja del. Predvsem pa se teži k temu, da se vse ukrepe na določenem odseku izvede pod eno zaporo. Skratka, da se ta število zapor čim bolj racionalizira in s tem povzroči čim manj motenj na našem avtocestnem omrežju. Zdaj, na področju zapor bi jaz lahko tukaj ponovila kar vse cilje, ki jih je že navedel Slovenko. Skratka, gremo v smeri zmanjšanja ogljičnega odtisa, tudi v naših strateških ciljih. Predvsem proučujemo uporabo toplih asfaltov, pristopili bomo tudi k proučevanju uporabe reskanca, izvedbe reciklaž in seveda vse večje te digitalizacije procesov proizvodnje in vgradnje asfaltov. Tako da v prihodnosti bo fokus na, se pravi, poleg tega, kar že zdaj družba DARS zahteva od partnerjev, usmerjen še v doseganje nekih okoljskih ciljev in standardov. Zdaj, vzdrževanje na avtocestnem omrežju družba DARS izvaja v lastni režiji, pretežno v lastni režiji, namreč z 470 zaposlenimi, z lastno mehanizacijo in opremo, samo določena specialna dela in dele, ki zahtevajo specialno opremo, pa oddajamo zunanjim izvajalcem. Tudi na področju vzdrževanja je povprečen letni vložek tam 8,4 milijona evrov, preplasti se pa povprečno dobrih 236 kvadratnih metrov vozišč. Zdaj, priložnosti na področju vzdrževanja so usmerjene pa predvsem v optimizacijo del vzdrževanja. Vemo, da že danes potekajo kar nekaj del v nočnem času, po drugi strani pa vemo seveda, da dela v nočnem času so omejena z nekimi okoljskimi zahtevami, predvsem v smislu hrupa in vibracij. Tudi večja je možnost za nastanek poškodb pri delu in tudi seveda večja je možnost za slabšo kvaliteto izvedenih del. Zato trenutno poteka v družbi DARS projekt ali naloga, ki bo nekako analizirala pod vsemi temi z upoštevanjem vseh teh robnih pogojev, kako pravzaprav pristopati k izvajanju vzdrževalnih del in probati čim več skratka vzdrževalnih del izvesti izven koničnih obremenitev, ne samo v nočnem času, ampak tudi izven koničnih obremenitev. Zdaj, neločljivo z vzdrževanjem in z obnavljanjem so povezane zapore in seveda zastoji. Te zapore so lahko kratkotrajne, vzdrževalne in daljše zapore. Seveda najbolj problematične so te daljše zapore, cilj pa je, da se pod eno zaporo izvede čim več del. Zato je pričakovati nekoliko spremenjeno strategijo družbe DARS pri postavljanju zapor, ker zdaj se zapore prilagajajo izvajalcem, zaradi vse manjšega okna, časovnega okna postavitve zapor in naraščajočih prometnih obremenitev, pa bo seveda verjetno nekoliko drugačna strategija in sicer, da se izvajalci prilagajajo možnost izvedbe zapor in da se čim več del izvede pod eno zaporo. Zdaj tudi priložnosti to so nekako tudi priložnosti, ki jih moramo nekako še doreči na tem področju vzdrževanja. In seveda tudi pretehtati tole časovno okno zapor, ali so mogoče merila, ki jih danes upoštevamo, preostra in jih bomo mogli zniževati, kar pomeni, da se bomo mogli odločiti, kateri in koliko, kakšni zastoji so še sprejemljivi, ker zagotoviti pretočnost v zapori očitno ne bo šlo več. DARS seveda vodi tudi evidenco zapor. V tej evidenci zapor so tako zapore na avtocestah, na avtocestnem omrežju, kot zapore na državnem omrežju. Seveda do vseh teh podatkov lahko dostopamo tudi uporabniki preko raznih aplikacij in prometno-informacijskega centra, ki deluje v okviru DARS-a. Zdaj, zelo velik poudarek je seveda o tem menedžiranju ali pa upravljanju dotoka vozil v same zapore ali v same zastoje, bom rekla tako, ker seveda nastajajo tudi zastoji zaradi zgoščevanja prometa. V okviru tega poteka na DARS-u projekt Speed Management, zelo aktivno, katerega namen je seveda upravljanje hitrosti, pomeni, da seveda na podlagi zelo dobrih prometnih modelov ta model že zazna, kdaj so te zapore in seveda potem z hitrostjo dozira počasneje nova vozila v to zaporo. Tudi v zvezi z vsem tem, kar se tiče del in zaporami, je obveščanje uporabnikov preko različnih kanalov, tukaj je naštetih kar nekaj, tako da te kanale nameravamo tudi v prihodnje ohraniti in jih še nadgraditi oziroma posodobiti. Vidimo pa tudi, da potrebe po prometnih informacijah rastejo in rastejo nekako sorazmerno z nepredvidenimi dogodki na avtocestah. V letu do septembra 2023 smo našteli že 70 000 takih dogodkov, zelo pa je poskočil seveda potreba po prometnih informacijah v času, se pravi, nesreče v pokritem kopu Malečnik in v času poplav vozišč. Tudi komuniciranje je eno področje, ki je tesno povezano z izvajanjem del na avtocestnem omrežju in tukaj je v bistvu največ priložnosti za posodobitve in nadgradnjo in obveščanje in komuniciranje uporabnikov, tako da v zvezi s tem teče tudi posebna naloga na DARS-u, kjer bomo nekako se probali prilagoditi percepciji uporabnikov. Ne bomo več izhajali iz percepcije, se pravi upravljalca, ki samo obvešča, ampak uporabnika, ki nekako želi tudi komunicirati z uporabnikom, se pravi avtocestnega omrežja z DARS-om. Mogoče sam to je še en projekt, komunikacija V2X, ki tudi teče v okviru projekta Searoads. Tukaj DARS zelo tudi aktivno sodeluje, namreč gre za projekt komunikacije avtomobila z našim sistemom in avtomobila z avtomobilom. In tudi ta projekt je namenjen upravljanju prometa in je tudi podlaga ali pa neka osnova za avtonomno vožnjo. Vemo, da avtomobilska industrija razvija to platformo znotraj, se pravi avtomobila. Naša naloga in naš cilj pa je seveda, da razvijamo infrastrukturo, s katero bodo ta avtomobili lahko komunicirali, skratka, in na ta način čim prej dobivali informacije tudi o delih na našem avtocestnem omrežju. Tako, evo toliko nekoliko širši pogled na samo vzdrževanje in obnavljanje avtocestnega omrežja. Če bodo še kakšne vprašanja, pa sem na razpolago. Hvala.
So thank you very much, Lidija. Thank you very much for this presentation. As we started a bit late, I think that for the sake of time, it's better that if we split a bit the Q&A in two and two. So I would like to invite our next speaker directly, Mr. Piero Munari. Between 2014 and 2018, he was head of investor relations for the UniCredit Group, implemented 2 strategic plans and a 13 billion right issue. In 2017, ranked third as runner-up in the IRO, and consequently, under his leadership, UniCredit ranked first as a European IR bank, as well as for corporate governance and disclosure. While at UniCredit, Piero held a number of important responsibilities, including global co-head of corporate finance and advisory and head of insurance investment banking. Between 2003 and 2007, Piero managed the European P&C run-off at Swiss Re, and was an executive member of staff in the M&A department of Zurich Insurance. Previously, he was senior vice president at JP Morgan Chase in European financial institutions, and before that, equity research analyst at Deutsche Bank. So today, I think Piero will explain a lot about taxonomy. So please, Piero, the floor is yours.
So good afternoon. I am very happy to be here, and I wanted to thank Slovenko for this great invitation. So I used to be a banker. I switched in 2018 to sustainability, and I think it was the right choice. It was probably a very lucky choice because the regulatory landscape totally changed since then, and as you probably see in the investment community, there's quite a lot of discussions and headlines on a daily basis on ESG and sustainability. So I created a very small firm which is now composed of 15 professionals, and we advise companies mainly in Italy, I would say. We advised one in Slovenia, which is a very small bank called NLB. But jokes aside, we advise companies in Italy which are listed. If they're not listed, they issue bonds, and if they're not listed and do not issue bonds, they also are looking, for example, for IPOs, and on top of that, we advise funds, what are defined as Article 8 and Article 9 funds in terms of their sustainability investments. So I'll give you an example. Today we are advising a Spanish fund which is located under a foundation, and they only purchase companies which improve oceanographic biodiversity. So this is a typical example. So my speech will be divided into two. One part is regulatory, and the second one is a practical example, and probably the reason why I've been invited here by Slovenko, which is we advised one of the third largest motorways in Italy in the context of ESG, and really with the objective of reaching an ESG rating by one of the global ESG firms. So I've been asked to dwell a little on taxonomy, and as you probably know, taxonomy was launched. The EU taxonomy was launched in 2020 and kicked off really last year. The European Commission, in the context of the EU Green Deal, launched the European taxonomy in 2021, which is basically a specific classification. As you see on the slide, there are a number of objectives which are required to facilitate sustainable investments by identifying and defining these sustainable companies, or sustainable activities. So in the context of the European Green Deal, there's two key directives. One is the EU taxonomy, which is here, which is based on companies being defined as sustainable if they meet a couple or one or more of these objectives. And as you see here, these environmental objectives are climate change adaptation, climate change mitigation, sustainable use and protection of water and marine resources, transition to a circular economy, pollution prevention and control, protection of ecosystems, biodiversity. However, in this context, an economic activity is defined as environmentally sustainable if it contributes to one of these objectives, but on top of that, it must not cause significant harm to any of the environmental objectives and needs to meet the minimum safeguards of the United Nations. So, why is this required? Because if I am a company, a large or small company, and I want to have finance at a cheaper rate, and I am classified as sustainable, the financial institution or investors who will purchase my bond will probably be asking the company to pay a lower interest rate on the banking finance, or a lower coupon on the bond. So this is the main reason for this directive being agreed. And I would say this is only part of the directive, because EU taxonomy is now focused only on environment. There's going to be a red draft of EU taxonomy on social, and probably at a later stage on governance. If we move on, what is really taxonomy? And the taxonomy is, first of all, who is required to produce a taxonomy? Well, taxonomy is mandatory only for those companies which are listed companies, but which were obliged to prepare non-financial reporting, which is a result of the non-financial reporting directive, which came out, I think, in about 2016. These are mandatory. So if you look at some large caps in Europe, I'll give you an example, Allianz, which is a large German insurance, then most probably they will have to produce mandatory disclosure on taxonomy. By the way, the mandatory disclosure on the taxonomy is in the blue part of the slide, which basically tells you if you want to be a sustainable activity or be classified as that, or you need to produce that disclosure, then the disclosure is basically three things: the percentage of revenue which is deriving from sustainable activities, the percentage of capex, so how much capital expenditure derives or is invested into sustainable activities, and lastly, the percentage of OPEX. So who else is required? Other companies which are of public interest are required to produce these numbers, banks, insurers, and whoever is going to be present in managed savings, and normally the threshold is 500 employees or more. So if you will go into the annual reports, or rather the ESG reports of some of the large caps which are listed in Europe, you'll see that they will have produced some numbers on what is defined as eligible to EU taxonomy, and some other numbers which are defined as aligned to ESG taxonomy, and this is just a question of timing. I.e., corporates are required to produce these ratios. They will have to produce them in 2024 vis-à-vis 2023 numbers, and banks will have an extra 12 months, simply because banks will need the taxonomy numbers from the corporates to be able to produce their own taxonomy numbers. And why is it important for banks? Because if a bank has in its credit portfolio or loan portfolio a number of, or a large percentage of taxonomy aligned activities or clients, then it will have some benefits in terms of capital absorption by the European Central Bank. So this is one of the drivers. So another topic on regulation is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. As I mentioned in the past, companies were obliged to produce a non-financial report. Now this is going to be substituted into the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. This will be launched beginning of next year. Who needs to produce it? You see it once again in the blue part of the slide. So you will have in 2025 on financial and 2024 years already who is subject to the NFRD, hence taxonomy. By the way, going back to the taxonomy, I just want to mention it's not mandatory, but any company can provide data on taxonomy if it's defined, if it enters the classification of being aligned. So I could have a company which has 50 employees. I want to get cheaper funding. I can try and align myself to the taxonomy. I go to my financial operator, my bank, and they'll probably be able to issue to me a loan which is cheaper. So going back to this reporting on the corporate sustainability, in 2026 with 2025 year-end financials, large corporates, which are defined as corporates with more than 250 employees, will be required to produce these numbers. And in 2027, on the basis of financial year 2026 financials, even listed small, medium caps will have to produce these disclosures. The disclosure is basically a very thorough version of the non-financial reports that you'll see in some companies. This is going to be mandatory by the EU simply because the EU has the objective of providing much more details on the full value chain of a corporate or a financial institution. So maybe I move on to the details on the corporate sustainability on another directive which is coming out, which is called the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, and I think this to some extent is applicable to some of your companies because the CSDD requires companies to conduct a priori a due diligence and take responsibility for human rights abuses and environmental harm throughout the value chain. Why is this important? Because since there's not many sanctions in the other directives, if you look at the bottom of the page, sanctions here can be material. So if a company does not abide to the CSDDD, sanctions including fines of at least 5% of the net worldwide turnover and non-EU companies that fail to comply with the regime will be banned from public procurement in the EU. So 5% of total turnover can be important, and this has also criminal consequences on the members of the board. So it's a very thorough point, and you'll see that in practice the new proposal will require companies to basically deep dive into how to integrate sustainability and human rights in the due diligence in their procurement policies. So I had received some questions on the procurement of who is producing motorways. This will be important for providing the confirmation that this due diligence has been done. Identifying actual or potential adverse human rights and environmental impacts in the supply chain. So focusing on the supply chain particularly, and this, by the way, is a major focus of investment firms today. So the big investors which will buy shares in listed companies. to prevent or mitigate potential negative impacts in the supply chains based on criteria which will have to be published, and bring to an end and minimize actual negative impacts. On top of that, certain large companies will need to design and implement supply chain climate transitions plans aligned with the 1.5% Celsius targets in the Paris Agreement. So quite a thorough set of directives has been launched, once again, in the context of the European Green Deal, and these are going to affect about 95% of economic activities in Europe. So only for the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which I mentioned earlier, the first impact in year one will be on about 50,000 corporates in Europe. So I would move on to, because of time, I would move on to a case study, which I think is much more interesting for the audience. And this case study is the case study on a motorway which is called Milano-Serravalle. And if anybody has ever been in the coast of Liguria or Portofino, you would probably have been driving on it. We were hired about 2 years ago to create a ESG infrastructure for this motorway, starting from zero, and with the objective of reaching an ESG rating in after 6 months, 12 months. Why is the ESG rating positive, important? Because with an ESG rating, I can access some bids for concessions, and I will have quite a number of tick marks which have been ticked, and I will be able, I will have a higher chance of winning these bids. So government concessions and so forth. In Italy, motorways are run by private companies, but they are run on the basis of private concessions. So what did we have to do? And I apologize if I do not have too many slides, but the work is confidential, so I'd rather describe it verbally. We started running an ESG benchmarking analysis, and I think most of you will probably know the peer groups of motorway management companies better than me, but we used Brookfield Infrastructure, we used Fraport, we used Atlantia, we used Brisa, Abertis, ASTM, and Transition Group, Trans-Urban Group, sorry. So we used quite a lot of peers throughout Europe, and we benchmarked every single aspect of their ESG strategy. And focusing on this, we picked six top topics, which were strategies and the Sustainability Development Goals of the UN, which are listed in any ESG report that you will find in a company, and the targets, the ESG targets. We focused on top of that on policies and certificates, and the policies may have been, we benchmark about 20 policies, so sustainability policies, health and safety, of course this is very important, employee codes of conduct, environmental policies, procurement policies. So we went to see whether the disclosure and procurement policies filtered the potential suppliers in a sort of way. Why is this important, by the way? Because the ESG rating companies will ask us whether we have procurement policies on the basis of how am I going to select my suppliers. We focus then on ESG governance. So how is the governance run in a company? Is there a chief sustainability officer? Is there an ESG committee or sustainable committee? What is best practice? We focused on certifications. So typical certifications are ISO, but this was all information we needed to prepare an ESG strategy for the company. We then looked at other ESG initiatives. I don't know if you ever heard of the UN Global Compact. or the UN PRI principles for responsible investments. So these were other topics that once again an ESG rating company requires, and clearly we run a gap analysis on the ESG ratings of which the company required. And gap and ESG ratings are important for any investor or bank which is going to be investing in the company. So we then defined a roadmap. This roadmap basically is a roadmap moving along 3 years. You cannot be a Ferrari on day one. So we produced let's say, a path to reach a high ESG rating. And so we looked at a best practice. We had basically defined 4 strategic pillars. One was environmental impact and how to mitigate it. The second pillar was engagement and enhancing the value of human capital. A third one was innovation, health and safety, and data management, with a focus on cybersecurity. And lastly, governance and sustainable leadership. So these were the main pillars. Each pillar had KPIs, and so we prepared a strategic plan. We identified about 38 KPIs which were to be met in the following 3 years. So on this typical KPIs were reduction of greenhouse gases. It was a strengthening of health and safety policies. It was, for example, ethics and anti-corruption policies, whistleblowing, for example, which was not much used within the company we were looking at. But on top of that, supply chain was, the procurement policies were very poor, and we created sort of Excel files with filters per different sectors of suppliers, and we were able then to sort of give points and scores, to the supplier in order to have them mitigate or not these factors. Another typical example was some KPIs on biodiversity, because clearly producing motorways would have had a material impact on mitigation. So having said that, we then finished basically the project with training of employees. Once again, this seems stupid, and training on board members, but this is another requirement by ESG rating companies. And the objective was within 3 years to have over 100% of employees trained, and the board being all on top of the situation with all ESG. Now, sustainability, and concluding, is ever evolving. So these directives are not finished yet. As you see, the corporate sustainability due diligence directive is still work in progress. The taxonomy is still work in progress, but because there's a social and governance part of the taxonomy. The corporate sustainability reporting directive is also work in progress, because the details of sectorial KPIs need to be still agreed at EU level. So I think we'll probably have Q&As later on these topics. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. I think it's been very clarifying. I need to ask a couple of questions, because first of all, the first thing I learned about taxonomy was that this is something that will impact the capacity of a company to get credits, bank credits or funding. So that was the first alarm. Then during our 50 years anniversary, we have a meeting in a reception in the EAPA offices, where we had a participation of someone from the European Commission, from DG Grow. We asked about this, and he said, well, there is a lot of misunderstanding. First of all, taxonomy is not mandatory, it's voluntary, it's just a way of classifying if an activity or a company is sustainable or not. And now when I see, Piero, your presentation, you talk about, in terms of companies will need to, for example, you talk about from 2026 large companies, we need to do this, from 2027 small companies as well, SMEs. So at the moment I'm a bit confused exactly what is mandatory, what is not. I will also ask your recommendation if it's not mandatory, or maybe for a company they need to do it from 2027, if it's recommendable that they start doing it already, or even after, if, for example, for small companies this is not really even advisable or so. So I hope you can bring some clarification. Do we have a microphone?
Hello? Yeah. So I think I would start from the easiest, which is what is mandatory and what is not. So it is mandatory only for, I would say, from a European level, a limited number of companies, because it's only mandatory for those companies which need to produce a non-financial statement. So you see this normally in the, I would say, the largest company which are listed in Europe, and these companies are those of large public interest companies, or the large ones which are sort of trading on stock exchanges and normally have more than 500 employees. But the 500 employees is not the hurdle. It's what is mandatory is for, as I mentioned, the companies which are required to produce a non-financial report, which stems from the non-financial reporting directive, which came out in 2016. On top of that, you have banks, you have insurance companies, and you have other financial players. Why is this? Because the banks or insurance companies will price at a higher or lower level a financing or potential insurance policies if you are taxonomically aligned or not, i.e. if you're sustainable or not, which makes sense. If the EU wants to push a Europe which is even more sustainable, I will make a framework which is going to allow sustainable companies to invest at a cheaper cost of debt or capital, as we say. So let's move on to the next step. If you are not required to be taxonomy aligned, but you want to be, you have all the rights to run your numbers and be able to demonstrate that you are aligned to the taxonomy. So the difference between, and this is technical, eligible and aligned is eligibility. It means I'm a ship cruise company, and I can say I'm aligned to the taxonomy. I'm eligible because within the taxonomy classification, being marine transport is part of the taxonomy, or those activities which fall in taxonomy. Aligned means I need to produce the numbers I showed you, which are percentage of revenues, percentage of capex, and percentage of opex, which is defined within some criteria which you will find under EU regulation. What is the point here? If I'm a company which has 20 employees and it costs me 60K per year to hire an extra person to run all these numbers, then I need to check whether it makes more sense to not to be aligned. I just look at from a cost-benefit analysis as a banker, which does not mean I'm doing the right thing, because I'm just looking at a financial part. Then I do a cost-benefit analysis and I see whether it makes sense to hire that person or hire PwC or hire ARWIN and partners to do the job, and whether I have a return which translates into higher savings in terms of my cost of funding. So this is it. I think the legislator is saying try and be taxonomy aligned, because you're going to have quite a lot of benefits out of that, and there's quite a lot of companies between 20 employees and 200,000. So it makes a lot of sense. Another point for the taxonomy is to avoid greenwashing. So I may say today I am super in sustainability, and in fact, I am saying a lot of stuff without looking at technical criteria or means of measuring whether I am taxonomy aligned or not. So this is another important point. And this regulation is very thorough in that respect. So if you will open up the Excel files provided by the EU in terms of, say, marine transport, what are the criteria to be part of or to be taxonomy aligned in terms of marine transport, you will go into very thorough details. And we have it for marine transport, you also have for car transport and so on. I do not know whether you have motorway manufacturing, but it's very thorough, and the point is you avoid greenwashing.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm glad that you mentioned that. We are expecting by the end of this year, I think, the publication of a delegated act where the Commission, I guess that fed up a bit of that everybody's claiming nowadays that they are doing everything very sustainable. So they are publishing a delegated act with a list of definitions of what activities are sustainable and not. And there is one, we have seen the draft, is road maintenance. And they define what are the criteria that we need to do to be considered that this activity is done in a sustainable way. And just to give you an example, one of these criteria is that 50%, at least 50% of the material that we put in the road when we do a road maintenance operation is reused or recycled, 50%. So less than 50% might be good, but is not, according to taxonomy, is not a sustainable activity. So just to make you reflect about that. So thank you very much. I
just wanted to add, it's this work, normally, the production of all these financials, which are non-financial figures, is normally created by the Big Four, you know, or BDOs, these sort of firms. So it's normally sort of outsourced to these firms, at least initially. They will run data governance and produce these outputs. So this is what we see with our clients. It's not normally, at least today, prepared solely by inner units within a company.
Mm-hmm. And I think that also related, I would like to ask from the side of the client if, for example, DARS has started thinking about these taxonomy issues, about declaring the taxonomy, and most particularly for us as clients, as producers, will this mean that, can we expect in the near future that, for example, when you have any tendering process because you need some contract for some maintenance work or so, that you will require for contractors, manufacturers, that they do the job in a certain way, so certain requirements like we see in taxonomy? Can we expect that in the future? Or?
Jaz bi odgovorila kar v slovenščini. Okay. Ja, DARS je seveda podjetje, firma, ki ima zaposlenih več kot 1200 ljudi, a ne? In seveda smo podjetje, ki najema vire financiranja na bančnem trgu, tako da ja, taksonomija je za nas področje, ki je zelo pomembna. Mi že imamo, se pravi, manjšo ekipo, ki se ukvarja s taksonomijo na DARS-u. Tako kot pa je bilo predstavljeno, pa taksonomija dobiva vse bolj eksaktne cilje. To niso več pridevniški cilji, ampak so zelo merljivi cilji, kar pomeni in seveda prenaša se za to verigo na dobavitelje. Kar pomeni absolutno, da bomo te cilje ugrajevali tudi v tenderje na razpisu in iz tega naslova, tako kot sem tudi že povedala prej, pristopamo počasi, tudi povečujemo ekipo na tem področju, skratka, da izvajamo aktivnosti v zvezi s taksonomijo zelo resno.
Okay, so that's why I expected. So we can see how actually this taxonomy is something is complicated and is something that is going to affect very much probably how companies will continue with their activities in the coming years. So it's a very interesting topic. Okay, we move to the second half of this session now. From the part of the industry, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Carsten Karcher. He graduated from the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology in Germany, the former University of Karlsruhe, as a civil engineer. In 2004, he got his doctorate degree at the same university. From 1999 on, he was research assistant, head of the testing center according to German guidelines, and at the end, head of the department Highway Construction Technology at KIT. He has a strong bonding to asphalt material and founded understanding of its technical, environmental, and social issues. As head of the department, he acquired and conducted research projects, mainly in the field of asphalt pavements. Carsten started on 1st July 2013, 10 years ago, as the director of EAPA and dealt with health, safety, and environmental issues and political items. On 1st January 2019, Dr. Karcher became Secretary General of the European Asphalt Pavement Association. So, Carsten, please, the floor is yours.
So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy that still half of the people are in the room. So I will be a little bit the storytelling uncle now, because I will talk I will talk about the history of EAPA, last 50 years, the past, and of course there will be a future, and there's a lot to do in the future, as we have learned throughout the morning and the first part of the afternoon. So EAPA was founded exactly 50 years ago, and the idea came up in March 1973, and in October 1973, finally, I think 9 or 12 associations decided to sign a contract and to found EAPA. And by the way, just if you are really curious about everything, the small history of EAPA is in the booklet we have outside. We have placed it outside, so just in case you might want to learn more about it. Yeah, of course, when you create an association, you also have to define goals. And you can all read it yourself, but for me especially is important the exchange of information. So we are in Brussels, these days in Brussels, we are the eyes and ears of that what's going on the European level. We should develop collaboration structures with authorities and of course support the interests of the asphalt industry. And we should improve the process of developing European opinions and the technical, social, welfare and environmental aspects. Even in 1973, the word environmental aspects was included. We should provide international congresses and the figures of the industry. So it took some years, and the EAPA was placed at that time in the Netherlands and in Breukelen. And 18 years ago, in 2005, when the velocity of becoming a European Union speeded up in 2005, then EAPA had to move to Brussels. So the board decided we have to be in the center of the European regulation, of the European policy. So only 18 years ago, but remember how Europe looked like 20 years ago. There was no EU 28 or now 27. It was much smaller, and just 10 years before, in 1992, the real funding of the European Union as we see it today started with 12 members. So it was a development. EAPA developed also alongside the European Union. And you see a picture of the old office, which was very nice, I would say. And then we had a quite ugly one for 18 years. But we moved now, in the beginning of this year, to a new office, which is very light, very modern, and very flexible. In March this year, we met together in Madrid on invitation of ASEFMA and celebrated with the members the 50 years. We had a very nice program of 2 days, very nice presentations, and a lot of older representatives, the current ones, and the history of EAPA, so former presidents. You can see the guys on stage here. So a lot of tradition in this room in March this year in Madrid. So how does EAPA look today? We are a non-profit association based in Brussels, and we talked about the funding of it. We have the staff working on the everyday work, which is myself and Brescio, so we are here on stage. And you have seen Ralf yesterday and today. He's the current president. He's elected for 2 years. We have the former president with us. We have Juan Jose here. He was the predecessor. And we have Slovenko with us. He's the vice president, so he will become the next EAPA president. Of course, EAPA has a mission. And when you read this mission, you will see that it's not only about producing asphalt, it's also about not only building and paving roads, but it's also about maintaining roads. EAPA is an association of national associations, so we have 16 national members, all in yellow on this European map. Unfortunately, there are some blue spots, but we are heavily working on that. Some of the funding members have left, for example, EAPA throughout the 50 years, so there's a coming and going of members always in associations. And we have also almost 30 associate members, which are suppliers, equipment producers, etc. The objectives: to promote the economic, technical, and societal benefits of asphalt, paving, and maintaining. To have an innovative and modern asphalt industry in Europe that cares, and this is important, for health of its workers, for the safety of its workers, for the safety of the environment, for sustainability, and as well as the protection of the environment. This is the objectives we have these days in EAPA. There are more, which I go more in detail, but it's also the last bullet point on this slide, as to build a strong reputation as the voice of the European asphalt paving industry. And when we come to national conferences like this one in Slovenia, or the beginning of this week in Budweis in Czech Republic, or when we go to Hungary or in France or wherever we are, we have the feeling that we are in a good way. So we are really have become in the last 50 years the voice of the European industry in all over Europe. And this is a good feeling. And one of the important things is to collect, to exchange, to disseminate, and to promote information and knowledge. The benefits of asphalt, I'll give you more examples later on this. To prepare technical documents and position papers, to do collaborative work with other associations in the world, to deliver congresses, symposia, workshops, to exchange all the information, all the relevant information, and of course to create committees and to work in committees. So I mentioned health, safety, sustainability, quality, etc. This is very, very important. We are also actively participating in the European standardization committees. We promote policies. We have opinions about the end of waste, about taxonomy, which are just some current topics, so we give our influence on the Brussels floor. And we prepare programs together and collaborate with other associations. I have some examples later. So coming more in the detail. On the right-hand side, you see a lot of committees in EAPA, but you can also see that there are some, let's say, new developments. We also have a communication committee. We have an Asphalt 4.0 committee, which we started, I think, as the first in the world. When we had a GAPA meeting, I come to this later, where members of other parts of the world join us, there's nothing like this seen in the world. And it all comes from the discussions that we have, I think, would say, with the Spanish colleagues, with Juan Jose, ASEFMA, where the push came. Slovenko, EAPA, we took that up, and you all have heard that before that we have already conducted 2 international conferences on Asphalt 4.0, and the 3rd is yet to come next year here in Ljubljana. So we are, I would say, quite advanced in this, and of course we have the technical committees, etc. And we have global contacts with, of course, the EU contacts, the European Parliament, the European Commission, and we have a very nice website where all this is brought together. You will find a lot of information there. We share the office together with Aggregates Europe, with the European Aggregates Association, so it's a big partner, it's our supplier also. the European Road Federation, very important, the Conference of European Road Directors. So those representatives of the national ministries who own the national roads. We are very active in the Construction Alliance 2050, where we, together with other large players in the field on the European level, try to influence the way sustainability is seen, the way the money goes to our sectors. And we have a long history of conferences, symposia, and events. And if you look at this, I think it's a quite impressive thing. It's 50 years, okay? But just look at the last 10, 12 years, how many events, conferences, etc. we have done. And when we moved from one office to the other office just at the beginning of this year, I went down in the cellar and I found a lot of nice things. So you see some screenshots of brochures from 1976, from the Eurasphalt, and also from 1980, etc. And you can also see that from the year 1996, it was the Eurasphalt and Eurobitume Congress. Before, it was just the Eurasphalt Congress, so to say the European Asphalt Days. But in 1996, we started to work together with Eurobitume because they had an Eurobitume Congress, we had an Eurasphalt Congress, and we brought this together, and this is the E&E Congress. And the next one is just closed door, not so far away from here. It will take place in Budapest in June 2024. And as you see in the headlines, which is innovation, resilience, and sustainability, we are here, Asphalt 4.0 is reflected, sustainability, decarbonization is reflected, and also the resilience. We talked a lot about energy, about supply chains, so this is meant with resilience. We have a lot of topics, we have received a lot of papers, we are currently preparing the final technical program, and we are all looking forward to see this, and maybe some of you, or more than some of you, will join us next June in Budapest. We also started to have webinars and workshops. One very successful one was in Italy, in Padua, which was on sustainability. No, that was an online, sorry. We talked about rejuvenators or recycling agents, and with road authorities, with technologists, with experts. In Padua, in Italy, this is based on a document EAPA had prepared, so we presented this and we presented the views. We also had a webinar on sustainability together with the European road directors, with CEDA, and a research project. Of course, we provide documents. My colleagues will talk about these documents and the details tomorrow. Brescio will talk about this tomorrow in his speech about what's going on in Brussels, so to say. And Juan José will also take some points of that. There's one document you see in the middle here, which was addressed. So we always prepare documents, not just to prepare documents. They should have a sense. They should have a meaning. That means if we want to address road authorities and tell them more about reuse, recycling, or in this case about warm mix asphalt or low temperature asphalt, we make a small document with the relevant information for them. And we shared it with them in an internal webinar with 40 or 50 representatives of the European road directors. And they said, very nice document, can we have this as a joint document? And we are closed door to have this as a joint document with the stamp of the European road directors, so our customer and EAPA, which represents you and the industry, so we have prepared documents together, which is very nice, and we are very happy to have this. Of course, in this course of the 50 years, we have been very active in the field of technical health, safety, and environment committees. We have the chairmanships of the CEN 227 Working Group 1. Brescio is the chairman, for example, so EAPA pays for this, that we have a strong representation there. And we supported studies and reports, for example, the IAC monograph 12 years ago, 15 years ago. So we did bring all the world together, put a lot of money, several million euros on the table to fund some studies to make sure that fumes of hot bitumen are not carcinogenic. And that was successful. We have a certain classification in the IAC monograph, and we are building on this. So that was a strong effort of the global asphalt industry, heavily supported by EAPA. And still today, things are going on, and we are in close contact with especially the colleagues from the US, from the National Asphalt Pavement Association, to work on threatening research projects or developments in our industry, to be aware what's going on and to make sure that it's really reality and not just fiction. Here's the picture of some of the colleagues of the latest meeting we had with the Global Asphalt Pavement Alliance. There's also a website which EAPA is in charge of. We meet every year, and next year we will meet in Europe at the end of the day, after the last day of the conference, of the ENE conference in Budapest, so in the afternoon. Many groups come together and we will discuss the hottest topics of the asphalt industry in the world. We started to be very communicative. So today in EAPA we have 1.5 full staff members working on communication. That was not the case years before. This is a strong development. Do the good things and talk about it. Have green asphalt, have sustainable asphalt, have healthy asphalt, and talk about it. And to have some benefits together, we produced the Asphalt Advantages website. That was done 10 years ago, no, almost 10 years ago it started, so we have 6-7 years online. We also have a Slovenian version of it. Maybe you are aware of it. I hope you are aware of it. And there's also some other languages. We will update this because it needs some renovation after these years to make the arguments more newer. And we started to have a lot of campaigns. For example, we have a YouTube channel, so you see the young face of EAPA, which is Piero. Not that young anymore, but still already also has a great gray beard. But he's still the youngest here, and we want to approach the younger people. But he's the youngest face of us, and he's a very good YouTuber in our sense. So we want to approach the young people. And you see the asphalt hero, so you see the guy on the left-hand side. He's an asphalt hero, and we discussed this to bring people in the asphalt field to our industry with showing them in videos, asking them questions. Why are you so addicted to the industry? Why do you love to work in the industry? So the real young people in the industry. And we discussed this during a workshop in Paris, and you see it on the right-hand side. So there are also Slavenko and some guys you might have seen before here on stage. And how can we be more communicative? And this was 5 years ago. And out of this comes the Asphalt Heroes campaign. It took some time, but it was developed all together in a workshop of EAPA in a symposium in EAPA in Paris. We have the Runners Love Asphalt. You see the first winners of a set of shirts of the Runners Love Asphalt Awards. And now we started with the Cyclists Love Asphalt. So you can also buy these shirts on the website of the Deutsche Asphaltverband, the German Asphalt Pavement Association. So if you are interested in these shirts, I know today you received one with a registration for this conference, but maybe you like to have the Runners Love Asphalt shirt, so you can buy that for a very cheap price. Okay, and we have been to Bauma, which is a very big event, construction exhibition fair in Munich. Maybe you heard of it. Thousands, 100,000s of people go there, even millions, I would say. And we had a camera, we had our communication team, we had the camera with us, and we were shooting interviews and the latest developments, Asphalt 4.0, innovation, digitalization, and we also have a short video about that on the EAPA YouTube channel. We also communicate in magazines, of course, and I'm not wrong. Here, the pages are turning. So we also have, normally we don't print it anymore, but for the occasion of some events now, we have printed versions outside. So if you would be interested, you also find some nice pictures of the 50-year celebration and the latest information from EAPA. We have 50 pages, so it's quite thick. So we'll have some information here if you would be interested. And on the left-hand side, you find the first EAPA magazine ever. That was in the beginning of the 80s. So I also found that in the cellar of the EAPA office when we had to move. And one of our goals in 1973 was to publish the figures of the sector, and we do this since the beginning of the 80s also. So every year we collect the production figures, etc., from the sector in Europe, and we publish this asphalt in figures on the EAPA website. And this chart you normally see in every conference, and I've seen it at least 2 times this morning. So this is one of the things we do, and we present it for free to the sector. We also have some awards. So we have the Asphalt Advocate Award. Slovenko was one of the recipients, and we started this in 2017. We have regular exchange with European Commission and European Parliament people. We just had this in a reception in May this year in the new offices. So people from European Parliament and European Commission are discussing with us on the latest topics. We're preparing manifestos, we are preparing EU items related to the policies ongoing. And on this left-hand side, you see the new EAPA team, and some of the people are already here today. So, and this is the last part of the presentation, which is the manifesto which we have created based on the 50 years of EAPA. So it is where are we today, and where are we going to? So I presented you a little bit of history, what happened, more or less in the last years of EAPA, not from the very beginning. But we also have to go to the future. And on one page we have summarized 10 calls for all the stakeholders, which is ourselves, which is our industry, our customer, which is the national road authorities or the road authorities, which is the suppliers, which is the producers. So all of those who are related, the politicians. And I don't want to read it and I don't want to go in detail because all of this is the total discussions that are going on in EAPA, sustainability, CO2 emissions reduction, taxonomy, etc. And the colleagues will talk about this later, so my point is not a technical discussion today, but I just want to show you some things. So with a good and proper maintenance, with smooth and even roads, we can reduce CO2 emissions, not in our sector, but we can provide the asphalt to do so. And if the roads are well maintained, Juan José will talk about this, we can save CO2 emissions. And the figures are quite big. To make decarbonization really serious, to be sustainable, to be circular, to have a circular economy, we are also working on this. We prepare a roadmap towards net zero. We provide the figures. You also see this pie chart before today in the presentation, and of course the EPDs and green public procurement topics. We are heavily working that asphalt is not waste, that we reuse asphalt and don't recycle asphalt, because reuse means asphalt goes back into asphalt and not is used as a black rock in recycling. So we always talk about reuse, and we always talk about that. And we have a lot of documents, and this is something maybe Brescia will talk more about tomorrow. And we need also to have an end of waste criteria. So asphalt is not a waste, should never be considered as waste. It should also always go back into asphalt. And if it's another material, tar or so, it's not asphalt, it's tar. So we have to clearly separate and distinguish between the very nice product, asphalt, which can be reused. And this is the greenest level you can have, the highest level of circular economy. And we talked about this morning. Whenever we want to reuse asphalt, we have to make sure what we put in today is still good tomorrow. So when we want to reuse this material, again, we have to make sure that we don't put anything in that harms the future use. Not on health aspects. So if we heat it up and something comes out, some emissions come out that harm the workers, we cannot reuse it anymore. So we have to be really sure that what we put in today does not harm the future. And EAPA has put this together as a general document for everything that you want to do in asphalt that normally is not in asphalt. Cigarette butts and so on. So always make sure that you have a risk assessment that you don't put this material in. Asphalt 4.0, so we want to lobby and of course push innovations and digitalization in the industry to make it fit for the future. No young person wants to work in an industry that is not digital, not innovative, and especially not sustainable. So we have to do this, otherwise we will have a problem with the future workers, future engineers in our field. And of course we have to make sure that the road authorities know that they also have to take their part, that the road in the future is prepared for automated, for electrified and connected mobility. The future mobility would look totally different than it looks today. And you can understand how this is when you look at these EAPA brochures. We will have different trucks. We will have different kind of loadings on the roads, and we have to be prepared for this. But I can tell you EAPA and asphalt has the solutions. So this is the last slide, finally. And I want to read the first sentence because I like it so much. Over the last 50 years, many lessons were learned and many milestones were achieved. Some difficulties were overcome, and yet some others remain challenging our industry. CE marking, construction products regulation, waste framework directive, asphalt is not waste, and taxonomy, we talked about this before, so we also have this, microplastics, product category rules, EPDs. After all this is just the beginning of an exciting future. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Carsten, for this presentation. And very briefly, I would like to introduce our last speaker of this session. Since we're doing a bit bad in time, I will not waste any time in talking about all the things he did in the past, because just by saying all the things that he is right now, it will take a couple of minutes. So, Dr. Juan José Potti is Doctor in Chemical Engineering, is the Executive President of the Spanish Asphalt Producers Association, ASEFMA, is the Vice President of the Spanish Road Association, is Director of the magazine Asfalto y Pavimentación, Asphalt and Paving, is President of ALEAS, is the group of laboratories of entities associated to ASEFMA, is co-founder of the World Road Day, is delegate of the Ibero-American Asphalt Congress, the famous SILA, is author of more than 300 technical publications in different languages and more than 500 conferences in more than 40 countries. He is coordinator of different research projects on national and international levels. And I would say the most important for me is the former president of EAPA. He was president until May this year, then when Ralph Pomp took over. So, Juan José, final presentation, and please, the floor is yours.
First thing, thank you everybody to be here. This is really a big effort. This is a long day. And evidently, first of all, thank you, Slovenian Association, thank you to my friend Slovenko, because I am happy here. I was several times, at least 4 times. And well, thank you to give me the opportunity one more time. Well, the title of my presentation is Vision for Road Paving 2030. Well, the idea is to think about, considering all the new things, which is the future, short term or medium term, only for the next 7 years. The idea is to show you the video, restarting all the ideas, but was very well communicated by Carsten, and it's late. I prefer only to give you one message. ASEFMA was created 50 years ago, exactly, to be part on the foundation of EAPA. Due to that, we celebrate at the same time EAPA and ASEFMA this year, 50th anniversary. Well, once upon a time, I remember perfectly this day. You too, also, Slovenko, because this document, created by EAPA, by UPAP, and by FERL, 3 big European associations, we try to give a new angle, because in general we defend the importance of maintenance of the roads based on comfort and security. But it's not enough. We need to have a new argument. And thanks to the documents, at least I talk about my personal point of view, we discover the impact in terms of the good eveness, good maintenance of roads, and the consequence in terms of emissions. Was exactly this day, quite 7 years, was 18 November of this year, 7 years ago. And, well, in this picture, I'm 7 years younger than today. We recognize several people, evidently Carsten, Slovenko, well, several people, because we made this meeting to present this document in the European Commission. This is the most important thing. It's not only a document made by EAPA, EAPA, and FIR. We present and to give the importance of the infrastructure of the roads in terms of the emissions. And several months later, the famous phrase, I have a dream. I have a dream because I am always convinced it's not only important to be or to have a good idea. The most important thing is to collect all the people around this idea and try to disseminate, creating something to facilitate the dissemination of this idea. It's for that we create, in first level was in ASEFMA, the International Road Maintenance Day, most known as IRMD. First year was 2018. And well, this was my dream, to create one day each year, first Thursday on April, to talk about the importance of the maintenance of the roads, but specifically under the point of view of the emission. This is the angle, this is the goal. Well, and you can see on the website as you see, is roadmaintenanceday.org. I support this initiative because roads don't cry, don't scream, don't go on a strike, and I add, and the people working inside, same thing. But it's necessary to maintain them properly. This is the angle. Help to the infrastructure, help to the roads to show the importance to maintain really. And well, we create, it's not the case to repeat all the arguments, but you can be an IRMD friend. Participate, well, I will explain later. You can be IRMD partner or media or sponsor. Well, in particular, sending each year, each 1st April next year, for example, will be on 4th April. Sending 5 tweets using this hashtag, IRMD, next year will be 2024. 5 times, you will be part of this family, IRMD friends, and you will be in the website. Well, we start like this. First year, we collect 25 countries. I was happy. This is the number of countries involved, sending messages, sending ideas, organizing several things. And well, first year we collect, as friends, 182 people. And we create the famous cards. The famous card is a very graphical, very simple image, giving arguments to defend this idea. And for example, you can see each square meter is all the cards are in 2 languages, Spanish and English. The next will be easier to understand for you. This is, for example, the impact in terms of each kilo invested in maintenance of roads prevent 36 kilos in terms of emission of the vehicles. Why? Because evidently, if the road is not in good level of maintenance, your consumption improves. And that means, at the same time, the emission, considering the number of the vehicles driving, is a very important argument. I remember you, as you know, 24, 25 total emissions in Europe are due to the transport by road. 1/4 part of the total emissions. And we, the people involved, the activity, we defend the paving, we are able to reduce this value. It's a very important argument. This is the video. I don't show to reduce the time. You are tired and probably, but I recommend to you to access to this website and to see. It's all the images made in form of video. Well, only to give you an impact, this crazy idea to collect all the people and sending messages and sending ideas about this concept. Well, the first year, 2018, more than 3,374 tweets. Next year, much more than this, and during pandemic was, you see, quite a double. in terms, much more impact. Okay, 7,000 people sending, or 7,000 tweets is a lot of or not? Depends. I don't know really. Well, Twitter accounts involved in this activity, number of different people using personal, organization, etc. We talk more than 1,000 different Twitter accounts. And as you know, not all the people are active at this level. But it's like this, the evolution. The digital reach. Which is the digital reach? I have a lot of followers. I have more or less 9,000. Okay, but each time I send a message, 9,000 people receive my message. Collecting all the counts, receiving the message, we collect, first year, more than 1 million people receive message talking about International Road Maintenance Day, and for the 2020 was the double. And collecting all the information, we talk about several million, 20 million. It's crazy. It's for that the social media, in my opinion, is the best way to disseminate, the best way to push on this, and you will see later. Well, in particular, 2020, I repeat, during pandemic, we made a very long journey, considering a lot of people in the world are interested. The idea was to repeat. We made a program 8 hours, and we repeat several times. 24 hours, or quite 24 hours, talking about this. In total were 15 hours of high-definition broadcast. And we obtained, it's not easy at all, it's very expensive in terms of marketing, economical impact. Trending topic, that means this is the most important hashtag used in this day in this country. Well, we were trending topic in Spain during more than 8 hours, at the same time in Guatemala and in Mexico. That gives you an idea. This is a crazy, well, I can give you, in terms of comparison, here, for example, today we have 19 colloquium like hashtag. Comparing all the impacts and all the, with other events, you see, the only event in the world similar in terms of this level, the only event is the World Road Day. But we talk 37 million impacts. And my surprise this year was that we sent this idea to create this day, and this year I received was nothing absolutely of this idea was thanks to me. It was one group of different organizations. Probably you know, CICIL, Savita, Society of Asphalt Technology. Basically, is administration, engineers. Savita is similar to Bitumni. Administration, local administration of a province. On South Africa, they consider is much more clever than the normal use to create a stable road maintenance forum, is the name he used, and we are convinced this is the right way, using exactly same day, same image, and the name is Road Maintenance Day Forum. Was this year, was the first time, and for me it's absolutely the right thing to improve much more than the precedent idea. And well, at the same moment, it's only 10 days ago, exactly on 22 November, each year they prepare and they made meetings to organize, to prepare, which is the content, which is the idea to, during this next 4th April, to organize the best event to promote these ideas. And the preparation was made this day, 22 November, only 10 days ago. And I was the privilege to start this meeting this day. like founder of this idea. I consider, well, for me it's a privilege to see one idea, one crazy idea, start to grow up at this level. But due to that, I share with the actual president and with the Secretary General, why not to create one European Road Maintenance Day Forum or something like this, because it's the right angle. It's the right angle to collect several organizations, and I can confirm the European Road Maintenance Forum. We have the approval with the participation at this moment of EAPA plus ASEFMA. Its constitution was approved in the last meeting in Cologne in October this year. Its basic and operating model will be stabilized. It's not a question to share now because we need to develop, but the idea is to create exactly the same. And the incorporation of other organizations will be considered. For the moment, the idea is to create the same thing, a forum, European forum, to defend or to prepare this day, the 1st April next year. And why not to consider same angle to the American or to the other parts in the world? Well, to finish, at the same time I talk about this development in Spain. During this year, we finished in September this year, we made the sectorial EPD in Spain. Sectorial, that means more than 50% of the total market was involved. And this was the responsibility of ASEFMA. And we know we obtained, which is the emission in terms of system for 4 types of bituminous mixture: AC, BBTM, porous asphalt, and SMA. And well, this is the values. And we start now the path to decarbonization. We have a reference in Europe. I feel this. I like this. This is Norway. Norway started 4 years ago and start to considering which is the volume, which is the impact each year, and they consider during the time. The goal is to arrive to 2030 with a level. For me, it's one way to solve the question. We take a reference. We have now in Spain, we have the value in 2022, this year, the past year. And the question is, which 2 years we will make the same procedure to try to arrive with the reduction stabilized minus 35, minus 40, depends of the reference in relation to this value. And same if the normative, you can must renovate each 5 years, considering our first challenge is to arrive to 2030, we will make each 2 years, not each 5 years. Each 2 years, we recalculate, we remake all the effort. To achieve this objective, we will have to implement these new technologies. Obviously, we have a lot of things to do. It's not a question to explain here. The objective is reducing all the phases, and evidently we made a big effort in Spain. Made this effort is evidently all the companies involved is an effort in terms of time, in terms of money, in terms of a lot of things, but is absolutely non-efficacious. No, it's not the same if you don't involve the administrations of the roads. And this is the second part or the second responsibility of ASEFMA. We involve the most important administration of Spain to do together, to recognize the effort, to recognize on tendering and this situation. Well, just to finish, okay, we in Spain, you made an effort to reduce the emission, okay, and you defend the emission because evidently the impact on the cars are important in terms to global emission in your country. That's right, but finally you have a problem. We have a problem because if this year, for example, we improve the volume of bituminous mixture 20% more, The emission will be, the second ball will be 20% more, reducing something. You can reduce, only to give the emission is one part of the question. The second part, and we solve this question, is how can estimate, how can measure our capacity to reduce emissions? And the answer was thanks to the digitalization, big data of the cars. Was explained this year during the second international conference on Asphalt 4.0. We are ongoing. We made now, because this year was a very good year in terms of projects in Spain. And the idea is to compare before and after each project, the emissions, the consumption, all the measures before and after, based on big data of the cars. Quickly, we made this technology, for example, in the case of City of Madrid. City of Madrid, evidently, all the modern cars, thanks to the e-call, the system to prevent an accident, send also a lot of information from the car. Well, a Spanish company specialized in this area was able to give this information and to create a special pseudo-ERI, and finally you are able to collect from the cars the evolution, the change in the ERI after and before each paving project. Based on that, the difference is very easy to do, it's not difficult, and the question is, we have a media, we have an indicator, like a KPI, to know before and after which is the value, and this is the system we will use to verify, to obtain this evolution, and which is the capacity to reduce thanks to the paving activity. Well, last, only to finish, the evolution of this was based in a project named EAPA. If you find the EAPA introduced in a website, you can find. The project, the idea was exactly that, to be able to make the measure after and before a paving project. And our most adequate solution now, considering our actual knowledge, is thanks to the big data of the cars. Second thing, the big data give us a pseudo-ERI, and this is the way to see the difference in consumption or in emissions thanks to the paving activity. Well, the cost to measure before and after is quite nothing. It's not expensive at all. In this year, we will make in several projects because all the people were surprised. It's an excellent solution to solve this problem. And I consider it is the best way, actually, according to my actual knowledge, is the best way to confirm is, as the card said, 1 kilo reduced 36 kilos in the next years. Well, we can try, we can we think we are on the way to give the answer to this question. Conclusion, environmental demands can be an excellent opportunity for the sector. It's not only a challenge, I think it's an excellent opportunity. The maintenance of our road pavement and preventive rehabilitation policy can position our activity as an important vector for reducing vehicle emissions. Several projects, for example, in Spain this year, thanks to that, changed the name. It's not project for the construction of road or project for maintenance of road. They changed the name, project to reduce emission of the cars. It's totally different. It's the same, but the evident, the angle and the feeling from the normal people is totally different. Is the famous reduction together. Road enforcement rehabilitation action should we call it projects to reduce vehicle emissions between tal point kilometer, and the move from the IRMD initiative to the RMD forum has has been a South African initiative. Thank you for your attention. That's all.
Okay, so thank you very much, Juan Jose. I like very much this approach of seeing road maintenance not as a passive intervention when the road is damaged, but as an active operation to reduce the emissions of a sector that, right, the transport sector is 20-25% of the total emissions of the European Union. So I think it's a very good approach. We finish here, but we are a bit late, but just for the sake, because before I didn't ask the audience, and I wouldn't want to close the session without asking if there is any question that people would like to ask to any of the four speakers.
Hvala lepa. Bom začel kar na začetku s kolegico Lidijo, ki je govorila o vzdrževanju avtocest v Sloveniji. Imel bi predvsem vprašanje, ali imajo nek podatek, koliko je neka povprečna doba recimo zgornjega ustroja na avtocestah pred tisto prvo rehabilitacijo, ki je potrebna. Ne. Vem, da je to zelo različno od prometne obremenitve in tako naprej, vendar a imate morda, čas smo rekli, da je to med 10 in 15 let, ne vem, ta podatek še vedno drži. Ne. To je prvo vprašanje. Drugo pa, vemo, da pri obstoječi cestni mreži so problem finance v proračunu. Ne. DARS teoretično ne bi imel zagotovljena sredstva za obnavljanje. Kje je potem ovira, da se bolj intenzivno ne obnavlja, ker smo videli, da še vedno bo tistih 15-20% slabih avtocest. Ali je to samo denar, ali je tudi jasno tudi promet, ovira v prometu in tako naprej. Hvala lepa.
Dele, upam, da se slišimo, ne? Ja, mislim, da ta doba, ki terja že neke ukrepe na vozišču, se znižuje. Ne? Mislim, da tam že nekje lahko rečemo od 7 let naprej. Ne? Seveda je zdaj zelo odvisno tudi, kakšne so obremenitve. Ne? To velja seveda za najbolj obremenjene odseke. Vemo, da so te planirani za prometno, za plansko dobo 20 let, a ne? In če upoštevamo, kdaj so bili ti odseki zgrajeni, seveda so že vsi, ali pa rečemo že tam nekje vsaj 60% preko te planske dobe, a ne, kar pa pomeni in z veliko večjimi obremenitvami, kot so v resnici bili planirani odseki. Tako da ja, to se znižuje, to obdobje, ko je potrebno že intervenirati. Zdaj pa, kar se tiče tega vlaganja, seveda DARS ne vlaga samo v obnove obstoječega, ne, ampak nas čaka v naslednjem letu, pa nekje v naslednjih potem 4 letih, a ne, en zelo močen investicijski cikl, ne samo 3 razvojnih osi, a ne, zaključujemo tudi karavanke, naslednje leto štartamo za Srminsko vpadnico, se pravi nov vhod v Luko Koper, pa potem nadaljujemo še z Bartoško, pa skratka teh investicij je kar nekaj. Ne? Tako da res je, da nam sredstva ne odreja proračun, to je res, a ne? Je pa res, da seveda ta investicijski cikl, ki bo kar 1,6 milijarde približno, a ne, ali več, seveda pa bo težko zagotoviti samo iz lastnih sredstv, zato je s temi sredstvi treba zelo gospodarno tudi planirati, a ne? In seveda se posluževati drugih virov, tako evropskih kot najemanja kreditov na bančnem trgu. In iz tega naslova sem tudi prej že odgovorila, no, je tudi res ta taksonomija en element, ne, se pravi cene denarja, ki nekako regulira ceno denarja na trgu.
Okay, so thank you very much again to the 4 speakers. We don't have time for more questions, and I think we can close the session now and enjoy the coffee break. You need to add some words?
No, I just would like to say thank you very much to all, because now we will have a shortly break. So thank you very much again to all speakers. Hvala lepa vsem govornikom in hvala vam za pozornost. Tako, mi pa se dobimo čez 15 minut. So we will continue after 15 minutes za okroglo mizo, ki jo bo vodila Alenka Trlep.